here's your areas of ethical influence. Negotiation, communication, and language, which is one of my favorites. Environment and ergonomics, another part that my company works with. Economics and exchange. Give them some good reason to work with you other than money. Because as Brian was saying, everybody can make $1, but not always a difference. Make that difference. And that's what economics and exchange is all about. And then finally, or not finally, we got mirror neurons that we're going to touch on, and then we're going to end with a, how much time do I have?
About 25 minutes.
Beautiful, just on time. So we're going to talk about these, and then at the end of it, we're going to do an exercise together so that you can actually practice some of this sensory acuity. Sensory acuity is a skill that I learned in neurolinguistics programming and cognitive behavioral therapy. It allows me to check in with my client, with the person I'm working with, and be able to instantly recognize when I'm out of rapport and ways to get back into it. What they've discovered is that in the therapeutic relationship, the most important thing to success is the relationship. If somebody's comfortable with me, they're going to do really, really good with the work that I have with them. If we're not in rapport, forget it, I got to refer out. It's just not going to work. So think of that at work. If you're not in rapport with the people that you work with, it's not going to work. So, negotiation. There he is, Chris Voss. Look at that. Oh my God, I love that quote. Oh, it's one of my favorite quotes of the whole wide planet universe. Negotiation is the art of letting the other side have your way. Right? That's pretty, I like that. But again, I'm an expert manipulator, so I always do it in a way that I really want people to feel empowered when we're done, inspired. That lets me know, that's one of my KPIs. I just learned that term 3 years ago when I came here. My key performance indicator, right? I know that if they're feeling inspired and courageous, then I manipulated them in the way that I was going for. And here's the difference between these two. I learned Harvard's getting to yes actually in a craniosacral therapy class. Because a lot of times what we'll do is we will negotiate with past trauma, which is really interesting. And so in this class, we were introduced to this getting to yes, and I loved it because it was a very simple format. First of all, what you do is you separate the people from the problem. And then you go over all of your interests. What are people really here wanting to get? And then you explore options. And then finally, the last one is that you agree upon an objective criteria for negotiation. So it's really good stuff. They also have a little feature in it that when negotiation doesn't work out, you go to your BATNA. Does anybody know your what's a BATNA? All right.
Say it again.
BATNA. Somebody said it.
Best alternative to a negotiated agreement.
Awesome. Exactly. That's your BATNA. So when you engage in negotiation, you need to have your best alternative to a negotiated agreement, okay? Which I'm like, hey, that's awesome. So now I even have an out if things don't work out. I've always got this in my back pocket. This is really great because, again, we're recognizing that we got to separate the people from the problem. What if the people are the problem? I started working with some people. We have a beautiful relationship right now, baby mama and me. On that note, 7 years ago, it wasn't so nice. And every time I would try to use these getting to Harvard, I would, okay, let's make sure that both of us have been eaten, that we're both feeling good, we're both in the right, we're both calm. Okay, now we can get into negotiation. And by the time I got down to those options for, possibilities, it was like, oh, forget it. All right, I got to use my BATNA. So I had to use my BATNA every single time with people, and I'm like, well, how good is that thing? How effective is a negotiation technique that you always have to use your alternative, okay? So it is a great technique, and that's actually one of the things that Chris Voss started with. He is the FBI negotiator known all around the world. And the stuff that he works with is life and death, and he works with emotion and emotional intelligence. And he's the guy that instead of saying, don't go to yes, because you got to figure that sometimes when you're dealing with a yes, it's just to appease. Will you be there for that conference? Yeah, I'll be there. That doesn't mean they will. It's only an affirmative because they want to escape. It's a manipulation, guys. So in those cases, don't try to get to yes. What Chris Voss says, he's over here, he says, encourage no. So instead of saying, will you please, pretty please make it to that conference? Is there anything stopping you from making it to the conference? You see that? So now, instead of just passing me off, they have to articulate in their brain. They got to think about it. Is anything going to stop me from being at this conference? No. Gotcha. You'll be there. That's how important the difference between yes and no is. And when I learned how important it is to look for the black swan, what the black swan is that's the thing that you won't know until you engage in negotiation. But everybody has buttons. And the black swan is finding that button that will connect with them, that will create a bridge, an expanding bridge, that instead of contracting to compromise, you engage in a negotiation that gets to something that you both really, really like. So there's negotiation and Chris Voss. Those two, if you're a leader, you need to do them like this weekend. I mean, you're behind. You are way behind. Now, if you've done other negotiation skills and you think they really, really work well, come tell me. I've only played with these two and a couple others, but I think they're so brilliant. And again, I'm working with life and death stuff. I'm working with kids who want to end their lives. And the stuff is so effective that when I manipulate people, it takes them out of their misery and shows them how great they are and makes them want to stay around a little bit longer. That's how important negotiation skills and our voice can be. Communication and language. We talked a little bit about this, and this is where, again, getting a certification in a neurolinguistics programming class or some of the basics would be very, very helpful. I grew up with this stuff. When I met my dad at 13, he was some weird kind of, hippie, granola, a bunch of essential oils, Reiki, all that fun stuff at a real young age, and so I was just blown away with it because I came from trailer parks before that. And there's one of them, listen in silent, keep that in mind. They're the same word, right? It's just, again, the letters have been rearranged like we spoke of. Words, choice, shape, outcomes. You are such a great worker, and I really like the work that you're doing here, but what you just did is you canceled everything that you said, neurolinguistically. So instead of that but, and use this with your family too, stay away from buts unless you're attempting to cancel what you just said. Otherwise, look for and. You are such a great worker. I really appreciate, all that you do here. And I want to help take you to the next level. And I know that there is something inside of you that we're missing here, and we can collaborate to make this place better. Inspiring words. Ask with intention. You pick out a pair of shoes that you love, your favorite shoes. You go into the office and somebody says, why'd you wear those shoes? Your brain instantly gets to think, what do you mean? I wore the shoes because I like them, because I thought they'd go great with my outfit. Why are you asking me why did I wear these shoes? Instead, what was your goal in wearing those shoes? What were you thinking? What was behind you wearing those shoes? Again, you're going to get them off of their emotion. You're going to get them thinking. That's the biggest difference. I mean, that right there is worth $1 million. If you didn't know that, you have now just changed your life and your office situation. You got to practice it. But stop asking why. The only place that why should be, if I have marketers here, you use the why, like Simon Sinek, he calls it the golden circle. And in the middle of the golden circle, you want to know why people do things. So Apple sold all of their stuff based upon why people would do it. Because it's going to help you connect with your music and you're going to feel good using our products. When Dell came out with their MP3 player, they talked about every single little feature. What it does this, it does that. Nobody bought it. So when it comes to marketing, you want to go to the why. When you are asking your employees what they want around here, you ask them why. You want to connect in that way. With everything else, use what. That's that's going to be so much easier for you to follow through than to having to pick up and say, no, I didn't mean it that way. Your shoes are fine. Absolutes create resistance. You always come in late. It might be true, but probably not. So be careful with these definitives. That's what we call subjectivity, okay? Stay away from subjectivity unless you're picking out an outfit. I love subjectivity. That's feelings, that's color, that's all the things that I want, all the things that I like. But when you're dealing with negotiation and when you're dealing with psychology and a lot of the workplace stuff, you need facts. You need objectivity so that everybody can make agreements with one another. That's why if I look at these lanyards and we all say that they're blue, we'll say that they're objectively blue. So, communication and language can be fine-tuned, I'm sure, in most workplaces. Environment and ergonomics. Who's seen Jennifer Hines, any of her talks with the sleep stuff? She was earlier or yesterday or something. I've seen her for both talks, and she talks all about sleep. And so she brought me on TV over to Channel 2, and I did a little thing on sleep. And one of the most important factors of sleep is going to be our ergonomics and our environment. We want to have the right pillow, the right bed. We want to go to bed at the right time. We want to have good hygiene. We also don't want it to be too hot, too cold. So if sleeping requires certain ergonomics and certain types of environment, please understand, and again, I could do a 4-hour workshop on the 3 different types of ergonomics and how much money it's going to save you, and how much safety it's going to increase, and how much productivity it's going to increase, because people are working better because their bodies and minds are happier. I can teach you a lot of skills, like one, for example, the more toxic chemicals that are around, the more often people get sick. The more often people get sick, the more often they're home. Productivity goes down. If you put live plants inside of your offices, NASA did studies on them, and they will absorb toxic chemicals like benzene and formaldehyde. Some of these don't affect a lot of people, but other people are more sensitive. So why not just make the place aesthetically beautiful and get some of those plants and actually do better for the environment? In way of ergonomics, one of the reasons people need me to manipulate them the most is because they have horrible body mechanics. And because what they're doing at work is killing them. So, I talked about suicide and homicide, but boy, oh boy, we could talk a whole time on how our leaders are killing people. And I know that's really heavy and dark. But in a way, we're certainly, a lot of us are not supporting them. It's not growth, it's not life, it's not expansion. It's I need to come in here, punch the time clock, get things done quickly, and then go home and, rinse and repeat, right? There's a lot that we can do for environment and ergonomics. Hire me in, we'll do an assessment. I will blow your mind with all the things that we can do. Remember the hippocampus and how cortisol will destroy that part of the brain? When you do meditation and breath work, some people are like, oh, kumbaya. When you do those things, scientifically, they secrete in your brain-derived neurotropic factor. There's no quiz later, so don't worry about it. BDNF and growth nerve factor. When you do those activities, they will restore the structure and function of the hippocampus. So based on a little thing we like to call science, you will increase your productivity and safety because your workers' brains will be better because you've given them an environment and the ergonomics to thrive, not just survive. That's what we're looking at here. Economics and exchange, that's the one to where, again, give them a good reason to go there. More than just, you give them classes like this. Have me come in, and I'll do a lunch and learn with you guys, and I will, by the end of that class, I've never ever had a class that everybody wasn't feeling better within 1 hour. Imagine if you did that on a regular basis, how good everybody could feel. Then we got mirror neurons. Back in the 90s, they actually discovered that there's certain neurons inside of our brain that when I do something and you watch me do it, they're clicking in your brain too. Now there is some disconnect because I'm in my body and you're in yours, so you won't technically feel when I'm doing this, but you might have a sense of it when I do this. And that's because we're all connected. Monkey see, monkey do. And the tests that they did were on monkeys, and they found that a monkey, even though he was just hooked up to a brain, was actually in his motor pathways of his brain doing all of the walking and moving that this other monkey was doing, even though he was stationary. So implications to us, bipedal humans is that some have claimed that that's where we get empathy. The studies that we've looked at now recognize that empathy is so much more complex. So that's kind of been debunked a little bit, but there is still scientific validity to the fact that when I do something, if you watch it, you will be able to do it better only based upon watching it. Just like if you do mental martial arts in your brain and then go and do an activity, you're going to do it better than if you didn't visualize it first. Athletes visualize all the time, right? So why not visualize yourself before you get into a meeting? So now the next one, this one's really fun. So you can pick a partner next to you, or whoever's close to you. And what I want you to do is we're going to go through this blessed method, and this is going to take about 3 or 4 minutes in total time. And what I want you to do is I'll put a timer on it, and we'll start. And person A will be the observer. Person B in this first round will tell a story. And so all I want you to do, and again, get next to the person so that you're kind of sitting across from them, or that you can see them, maybe you two guys with each other. So again, this is a partner thing, this experience. Hey, last time I made you do breath work. And they loved it. So get next to a person. Person A is going to use this blessed method. You are going to observe. Now, it's very important that you do this peripherally, okay? If you focus on anything in particular, you're going to miss other things. So with your peripheral vision, observer A is going to look at their breath, their lips, their eyes, the skin tone. Do they swallow? The skin tone would be, did they blush? Did they say something that made them blush? The directionality, are they moving forward or are they backing away from you? As far as breathing, are they getting really excited about telling you about the time that they won the Kentucky Derby? Or, I'm just horsing around, or did their lips get really pursed, like, oh my God, you won't believe this, okay? So this is what's called the blessed method. So I'm gonna set a timer. Person B, keep coming up with that story here. Person B will, I don't have a timer. Do you have a timer? You give me like a minute. Awesome, thank you. So person B, you're gonna tell a story, okay? And it could be any story you want. It could be about your first day of school. It could be about something your kid did yesterday that was really silly. It could be something you saw today. And so for the next minute, B, tell the story, and A, observe using the blessed method.